Oh, YouTube, it's William. Whittling on the stick. Well, this is a board, I guess. Just trying to get used to this large knife that prototype that I made today. I'm going to try to use it as a camp knife this hunting season. Made it out of 5/32 of that CPM 154. So just try to see how it handles some abuse. Has a saber grind. You can see it about here. A blended saber. So I mean, it does fine carving very well. Of course, the design is for it because it's got a sweeping blade that leads into your cutting. It's got a deep belly for butchering game when I kill that big buck. So anyway, welcome to another Whittle Talk. I was out here whittling on a stick, and as most you'll find when you're carving in wood, it'll want to splitter on you, and so you'll have to turn the wood around and go back the other way. There's also another way that you can deal with that problem. Is if you see the wood is trying to split on you, then go from the side and cut it from the side, and it'll keep it from splitting. See how that's trying to dig in? It's trying to dig in and splinter out. So if you just cut it from the side, you see how it made a little concave, if you will. So just another little tip. And people say that large knives is dangerous, which they really are. You just have to handle them a little bit different than you would, say, a small knife like this. But with practice, you can do pretty much the same thing with a large knife you can with a small knife. Now the problem is, you can't do large knife task with this small knife, but you can do small knife task with the large knife. So to me, a large knife is more versatile than a small knife. But with that said, if you had the skill of this small knife, you could be able to do workarounds that would require a big knife. So it's kind of whatever you prefer, really. I mean, this whole thing boils down to whatever you prefer. Now, me, I prefer to have a large knife with me, whether it be a large knife like this one, and I think this blade is probably close to 8 inches. I'm not really sure. It's pretty close to 8 inches, I would think. No, it's only 6.5. Okay. 6.5 inch blade, so that's about right. And but it's large enough that I mean, if you had to, you could chop some vines out of your way and some brush out of your way, and still have a good camp butcher knife, if you will. Something that'll do fine feathers or curls. And all that is knife geometry and practice. That's all it takes. Now, back to the large knife. So the large knife will do what the small knife will do, but more. The thing is, you gotta be able to grab the knife up close to where you're carving or whittling, because remember, the closer you have your hand that you're holding the knife with to whatever you're cutting or carving on, the safer the knife is, because you have more control of the blade. If you really want to see skills with a large blade, look on YouTube and just watch the aboriginals in the rainforest, how they handle machetes and how they use machetes. Because they use machetes, and I mean, some of them have a blade that looks like it's 24 inches long, and they'll be carving, doing fine carving with it. So it depends on what you get used to, how you train on it, and learn the knife. I mean, it all boils down to that concept. You have to learn how to use the knife. And the only way to do that is to get out there and whittle on a stick. And that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here and I was whittling on a stick, getting the feel of this knife. Trying to get the balance of it, and get my hands used to it. Because a large knife, if you're not used to it, will start wearing on your forearms, and it will tire you out a lot quicker than a small knife will, until you get used to it. And of course, when you get tired, you shouldn't be handling knives and axes and things like that. You should rest. But when you choke up on this knife, the balance changes. I mean, you probably could put a finger choil there, but I don't really see a need for it, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess you could. But your cutting power comes from slicing from that radius right there. So if you get back here on next to where that radius starts, you get a lot better cuts. So anyway, if you see that your stick is starting to split out on you, just come from the side and just slice it right off. Okay. Another little tip, little whittling tip. Another thing is too, I like that swept blade because you can actually get on the side like a machete. And turn the camera around here a little bit. See how the blade sits down below your hand? So if you wanted to, you could take firewood or kindling instead of batoning your knife, and you could split it like this. It has a knot right there, so it's not going to split too well. Well, see there, that's another reason why I dropped the blade a little bit below the hand, so it would be easier to split kindling. If for some reason I didn't want to take an axe with me, which is highly unlikely, I maybe decide to do a one-night camp and not take an axe with me. Anyway, that's another option. Well, thanks for joining me on this. I really didn't have much to say. I just thought maybe I would show you those little tips and tricks with a large knife. I've got several other videos on large knives and safety and how to carve with them and things like that. If you haven't watched them, then it may be a good idea to go and maybe it'll give you something to think about anyway, and hopefully it won't set you back too far. But anyway, big knives have their place. I love large knives, I really do. But I like small knives, and I like medium knives, and I just like knives. But I think that we should use as many different types of knives and styles as possible just to get a feel for each knife and understand, once we pick up a knife, what will that knife excel at, what is its weaknesses, just how that knife is going to be used, because the balance plays a big part in that. Because if you have a blade heavy knife like this one, then it's going to be a pretty good chopper if it's got the thickness and the strength. So, I mean, but you can also, on this blade, you can choke up on it and change the balance to where the balance is about just forward of the heel. It's just forward of that. So if you move your hand up where the balance is, then it doesn't tire your arm quite as much. You just have to make sure not to squeeze this finger where the sharp point is. So anyway, I appreciate you joining me for this, and until the next one, you guys get out in the backyard, whittle on a stick. Practice with your large knives. Do it slow. Take your time, because large knives are a little bit less forgiving, because if they do get into you, there's a lot of weight there and a lot of blade to cut you pretty bad. So carry some large band-aids with you and a few other knives. So we'll catch you again soon.